Hello and welcome to the Buildup. This is the podcast for marketing in the construction industry. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We've been working with construction brands for a number of years. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving industry, and that's why we created a podcast dedicated to the weird and wonderful world of construction marketing. I'll be speaking to leading brands, other agencies, creatives, influencers and startups. This is the resource I wish we had when we first started out in the industry. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Buildup. Welcome back to another episode of the Buildup podcast. I'm joined today by Will Hickman, right?
Correct, yeah. That's me.
Who's come over from 2 hours from, where's head office for you?
Milton Keynes.
Milton Keynes,
Yeah.
Sales and marketing director of Ideal Bathrooms. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I don't know whether we use the word show. Is show the right term? I feel that's
show,
a bit ostentatious, but massively grateful for you to come on and take the time. I'm always surprised when people travel a real decent distance to come in here.
I'm always surprised when people invite me to things. So, yeah.
Is this your first podcast? You've been on a podcast before?
I have done a podcast before, yes.
Cool. Is it good?
I thought it was all right. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how ours compares. I'd love it, Will, if you could give us a little brief intro to yourself and your kind of experience as a marketer. Maybe you can go through. We talked off air about like the different roles that you've been in and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I've been with Ideal Bathrooms just over a year now. Joined last August. It's October now. Whirlwind of a year really joining the bathroom industry.
Not a great year to come in either, really.
Possibly. Well, yeah, I'd like a challenge.
Yeah.
Before that, I've always been in sort of construction home improvement. So before that, I ran a business for 4 years in fenestration. And then prior to that, I was 11 years with a carpet retailer, a PLC, where I was purely marketing and sort of transitioned into an MD position for a large home improvement business in Yorkshire. And then moved back to sales and marketing, which is where I find most of my excitement, really. So, yeah, that's how I've moved back into that role.
What's kept you in construction, do you think?
I like it. It's exciting. It's a challenge. I think you sort of settle into one form of industry anyway. I'm not afraid to sort of break out of that. I mean, I've moved from carpets, fenestration to bathrooms, which in some people's eyes who stay in one thing all their life find bizarre, but it's incredibly transferable. It all goes in the home or outside the home or in a hole, in the case of windows. But yeah, I think it's a challenging but exciting, a very rewarding industry. I think I was talking to you a little bit about this before. If you went and worked for Coca-Cola, yes, it's exciting, it's sexy, but everybody knows it. You have some fun with it. This is a challenge. I like a challenge. I think it should be exciting to be in that.
I think also in construction, I think clever creatives and clever marketers can make a lot of difference.
I never said I was clever at it.
we'll figure that out as we go. I think people are steadily figuring out I'm not particularly clever when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I think construction. We found this as an agency. I don't talk about Dissident. I try not to talk about Dissident a great deal. The sign's already there, so we don't need to. One of the things that's kept us in construction, apart from the fact that we really enjoy the work, none of us have a background in construction. But we found it's the place where we can make the most difference.
Yep.
And that's been hugely inspirational for us to be able to go to brands and make a huge difference and for people to be really happy and to kind of get fame in the industry. Whereas if we went into hospitality with the same level of creative, let's say we replicated the same amount of effort and work that we do when we work hard, if we went into hospitality, no one would know our names. Because it's so saturated. And I think construction is just one of those industries that you can, I feel like it's still up and coming when it comes to marketing. I feel like as a rule, on average, it's a little bit behind compared to other industries.
I would say it's definitely behind other industries. Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that's coming up from higher, directors and upper management and stuff?
Yes, possibly barriers to entry into the market as well. I think if you're not in construction, people don't let you in.
Yeah. So we got lucky.
Yeah, perhaps got lucky. But then I also think the it's quite an old-fashioned industry.
Yes.
So marketing is, I've been in it long enough to know it still gets called the fluffy colouring in department.
It's funny, isn't it?
That's not what marketing is. It's so linked to sales. It's so linked to everything that we do as a business, and everything's based on sales. If you don't have turnover, you don't need everyone else in the business, do you? So it's all incredibly linked, and it's the first part of the journey. So it's valuable, and so many businesses just in the construction industry aren't there yet. Only just creating websites in some cases, still sort of don't feel they need one.
I imagine for financial directors and MDs, when you look at figures, because a lot of the time they're looking at figures, they're having to report to figures to their higher ups, and obviously they're getting the figures from the next rung down.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at sales figures, you get an instant feedback loop of, we did some sales stuff, we sent the sales guys out, we gave them some targets, they've hit those targets, and therefore our sales are up or down or whatever. And marketing's a little bit more wishy-washy when it comes to figures. Sometimes it can be.
It's very hard to get an ROI on it, isn't it? That's the difficult part.
Short term.
Well, short term, specifically in the traditional sort of routes to market, yes. Yeah. Almost impossible to get ROI figures on it. But in the emergence with digital now, everything's very linked. It can be analysed. It can be detailed just as much as an accountant would want it.
Yeah, and I think I'm starting to look towards we really struggle when it comes to reporting. So we're rubbish at case studies for our own business because we go, so we've entered some awards this year, and they go, great, what was the ROI? I'm like, this is a marketing award. Why are you asking me? You should know that there's no ROI, or it's very difficult to say. So what we base it on is trends. So if we'll go, okay, we got X amount of clicks to the client's website at this point, and these aren't e-commerce brands. These are selling to distributors. And a lot of the time our marketing is to the end user. So it's like we're kind of marketing to the wrong people, but for the right reasons. So we typically work on trends, and I think that if you can accept in those kinds of meetings that X amount of clicks to our website usually translates to over a period of time X amount of sales, then in that case we've done a lot of sales.
You have to decide your purpose of your media type and what you're doing with it. Is it awareness? Is it trying to get a conversion? Everything has to have a purpose, doesn't it? As long as you set that out at the beginning, then you can measure it accordingly.
I think what I like about the industry, and I think this will probably be the same.
So measuring is incredibly important. That's the bit, doing it for doing its sake is not clever marketing.
No.
It's got to be measurable, and it's got to be measured. And also, I think the big thing is accept it. If it's not worked, it's not done what you want it to do, file it, move on, but remember it, because don't repeat it again.
Yeah.
That's the thing that sometimes we forget in our business, and we are trying to get better at it all the time. But if you've done it once, it didn't work, make sure you take the learnings from it and don't repeat it again. And if it does work, let's analyse it, take the good bits out of it, repurpose it, go again, and try and get a better reward.
A/B test and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Rory Sutherland he said something, and I don't know the exact quote of it because it was long, but essentially he was saying some of the best marketing should never have a success goal. It shouldn't be based on ROI, and every business should be putting into their marketing pieces of marketing that are never intended to make any money.
Yeah.
And he says I think it was along the basis of like that's where you get the most creativity, the most innovation, when you're not trying to convert this into some kind of monetary value.
Yeah.
And you just create something that's beautiful.
I mean, you should have got him on the podcast. He's fascinating as Rory Sutherland, but he's very clever in the way that, and it's true as this, is marketing doesn't always have to fix the problem. That's often what the case is with marketing is you bring them in, and I think he tells this story about the best thing that London Underground ever did, or travel in London, was basically put the times on for the next train.
Yeah.
So because people are quite happy to wait for 11 minutes, knowing the train's 11 minutes, than wait for 5 in a state of uncertainty. But that wasn't marketing. That was just literally changing something at the platform brilliant. Kept everyone happy. He's a behaviourist more than a marketer, I think,
he's
isn't he?
a lot of
But he's
behavioural psychology.
very, very clever.
I love Rory's stuff, and I just love how eccentric he is.
Completely.
I'd love his life. I think. Can you talk to us a little bit about Ideal Bathrooms, kind of what you guys do as a business model, and then we'll go into talk about like kind of what you've.
In its most basic form, so we're a nationwide bathroom distributor, and in its most basic format, we bring in large pallets of bathroom products. We store them on shelves, and we send them out in individual pieces to a very happy, I'm proud to say, customer base. So yeah, that's it in its basic format, but it's all about service. That's our big thing. It's what we want to be our differentiator in the market and how we leverage that. So we have an incredible OTIF of over 99%, which is unparalleled to anybody else, I believe, in the market. And we just try and make it as simple as possible for our customers to engage with us. That's what people are used to.
I love it. What about the split between like retail and like trade? Like sort of DIY and trade. Sorry,
because we're pure national, we have a large and diverse base. So yeah, we deal with high street retailers, but we also deal with large merchants and have a big cross section of that. We try and are trialing now to make sure that we're slightly different in how we engage with those. So our retail customer might not want. We offer a next day delivery service, but is that what they want, or do they want actually to order it and get it the day before their customer needs it or their install needs it?
Yes.
So we're trialing and pushing that. Just trying to be there on, again, back to, not that Rory's a hero, but he's on buying behaviours and that sort of thing. I think that's just as important as the marketing in our business is how do customers want to engage with us? How do they want to deal with Ideal Bathrooms? And that comes down to us making it really simple for them.
I love it. And when it comes to the actual marketing of Ideal Bathrooms, we work with a lot of brands who we're marketing them, or they're marketing to both their direct customer, i.e. a retailer or a distributor, but they're also marketing towards the end user. Like, how do you kind of approach marketing for Ideal Bathrooms?
All ours is B2B. We don't touch the end consumer at all. We are very determined to stay on that in our lane.
Yes.
So we don't try and influence the end consumer at all, as in customer Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
All ours is leveraged towards the retail base and the merchant base of ours. Really.
Because the end user can't buy the product off you anyway.
No, we've got no interest in selling to them at all. The only thing, but by its nature, Ideal Bathrooms, it gets quite a lot of consumer traffic to the website, but we don't want it. Actually, as part of that, we have a showroom locator on there. So if you are a customer with us, your business will be listed on there. We'll send you the lead. That's something that we want to do for our customer base, but yeah, we've got no interest in it at all.
Brilliant. And then just to clarify, like the products that you have on that you sell at Ideal Bathrooms, completely different. They're different brands and stuff like that. So
got 30 different brands. Yeah.
Okay, wicked. I think this
and
might
some
be
of
the
the
first
sort of
time.
leading bathroom brands in there. So you'll have heard of Ideal Standard, Geberit, Grower.
Yes.
Apologies to any that I'm not on a list. I can't reel the 30 off now. But
all the brands that I try and poach when I go to on all the trade shows, I'm like, hey, nice toilets. These are really cool. Do you need some content?
yeah, don't blame you.
But this may well be, Keelan, the first ever official B2B, purely B2B conversation that we've had. There's always been there you go, there's Keelan's bit. Make sure you get that in the edit. A lot. We're either working, speaking to people who are direct to consumer, or we're speaking to influencers, or we're speaking to brands that are they're technically B2B, but then they market B2C because they are the name. They're the Geberit or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. So I'm going completely off script now. Then, like, what are your channels? Like, where are you pushing your like, not just in terms of social media, but where do you try and find and speak to your customers?
Yeah, very good question. A lot of it is email and relying on data.
Yes.
So we've got to buy we don't tend to buy much data, but certainly try and harvest it. I mean, we're 40-odd-year-old business, so a lot of people have heard of Ideal Bathrooms. That's very helpful.
And I imagine you've got a pretty decent database as well.
Yeah, we have, but it's about keeping those engaged, making sure that we're regularly communicating with them, making sure that we're talking to them. If they've not spent with us for a while, there's a reason they've gone away, then we try and keep them warm and get them back again. But email is becoming more and more prevalent, really. And we've got I think it's market leading. In fact, I know it is a portal, which all our customers have got access to. It's got live pricing, it's got live availability, it's got downloads on there as well that you can have. So if you want product specifications and all that sort of stuff, we're trying to make that the absolute hub for all transactions, really, I suppose, in time. However, we also have to remember that our customer base is very different and unique, so they want to order in different ways. We're not going to try and force them down that digital channel. That's the last thing I want to do.
Yes.
But certainly make it the absolute hub for it. That also then means, we've got them logged in, we can communicate with them via web banners and tailor into bespoke promotions, or anything that we can harvest from that, really. Because what we do get is incredibly rich data when they're buying on the portal. You can see what brands they're buying, what they've maybe clicked on and then clicked off. So then we know how to talk to them moving forward. I'm not saying that we can get to a Tesco club card sort of level of data, but that'd be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's even in situations where you're not quite ready to analyze that data, it's just good to get the data.
Absolutely.
We're doing this currently. We've tracked our time since Dissident's inception. So almost every task that we do is tracked from a time base. So we have all this rich data of all the different kind of projects that we work on, all the different tasks within that project, and on all of that that time is tracked. I've not to this day I've done very little with that data, but when I'm ready for it,
it'll be there.
And a really good example of this came up in this. I can't remember. There are clever quotes about data that have completely come out of my head now, but we had a shoot. There was a production coming up, and it was quite a specific amount of deliverables. So it was one production, but let's say 30 deliverables. It might have even been 40 deliverables. That's 40 mini films from one day of filming. So it's quite a weird thing to quote for, because we have our rates for production, and then we've got
edit time,
essentially. But luckily, we'd done similar things to this before, so we could go back to those productions, and I could figure out exactly how long it took to do all of that kind of stuff, and I could base my quoting on that. Not really related to marketing, but a really good example of you might as well start getting the data, even if you're not quite prepared to use it.
Absolutely, and we're anything we do now, I suppose, certainly from a marketing perspective, is we'll put it as a campaign.
Yes.
Even if we don't look at the data, because you're right, you might want to go back and look at it, and you can't go back and measure after the event. It's very difficult, so you've got to put that sort of data mining in place beforehand. And that, through our portal allows us a lot more of that. But it's not 100% of our business going through there. People still want to. I think we're still taking faxes, to be fair. There's the odd customer that still sends fax orders in, which is fine. It's not for me to go into their business and tell them that's not how to order with us.
No,
they can do it in smoke signals if they like, as long as we can receive it and process it. It's not a problem.
It's the number one thing in sales, isn't it? Make it as easy as possible for people to spend money. So why take away if they're like, this is the easiest, this is the most comfortable way for me to spend money, why take that away? Why make them change?
We're not unique as a distributor. There are other distributors out there. There's other routes to buy the same product or a like-for-like product. Why would we try and make it complicated? And that's the last thing we'd want to do. We want to make it as simple as possible for the customer.
Love it. I love it. So email, one of the sort of main channels for engaging with your
we still do an awful lot of social. LinkedIn gets good for us because we've got a captive market, I guess. Yes. Being B2B, you sort of harvest your audience and then just keep them warm and engaged. We're also trying to do more stuff with the social. It's not just push promotion all the time. It's actually a little bit more about what's behind the brand, the people that make our business, because that's incredibly important to us. We've got 190 colleagues, and they're what make the business.
Yes.
I hear an awful lot when you're out on the road and you're with customers and they go, "Oh, Dave, your driver is brilliant." It's Dave that's flying the flag for Ideal Bathrooms. It's nothing that marketing's doing. It's just they love Dave. He always turns up with a smile. He delivers in the right way, and they love him, so they continue to buy.
100%.
So it's about putting the people behind the brand in front of people, make it a little bit less corporate, I guess, a little bit more friendly. Because that's what we are. We're people at the heart of it. So, and a lot of good people, very good people.
It's often overlooked, isn't it? You can put a lot of effort into bringing the business in, and then forget that you've got to try and maintain that business, and that's when the little nuanced stuff that perhaps doesn't get measured can come into place. Like Dave, essentially that's a culture brand exercise to get people to be to engaging in the right way. I had a very I had an interesting thought the other day. Yesterday I was at the gym. You can probably tell from the video, but the gym that I go to is really well marketed. It's very high end. It's not that expensive, but it's got all the stuff that a respectable gentleman like me would want. So you go in there. It's at a spa. It looks amazing. All the facilities are incredible. Blah blah blah. But then I went in yesterday and I had the complete kind of the experience not ruined for me, but sort of dampened by the fact that the guys there were kind of just miserable.
Yeah,
like the welcome that you get is off a personal trainer on their laptop. They're going, all right, and it's like they're not interested in you at all, and that's fine. But it's kind of there's almost like a disconnect there between the actual marketing and what's marketed as the experience and then the actual experience.
Yeah, and this is I use this a lot, is the invitation has to meet the party, and that's a big thing. Is if we're going to go out there and market incredible service with a smile, 99% OTIV, all those great things, if the actual experience for the customer is, oh, well, it wasn't simple at all. My product was late. The driver was miserable. He swore while he was there. He also took a wing mirror off the car as he was leaving. All those other things.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to buy with us again. No. And I did this real example of my previous business I was at. I got a team meeting. I got a bit of metal chainmail and some bolt cutters, and made everyone stand up in the way. Marketing starts it with a lead generation, then sales go out and sell the product, then we've got to manufacture it, then we've got to deliver it, then we've got to make sure that the account's up to date. And there's so many people involved in the chain, and at any one point it could break, and it just undoes the whole thing. The unraveling starts, and any business is the same. Ours certainly. There's so many people involved in it, but it's because our customers repeat purchase all the time. So there's so many times in that chain that we can get it wrong.
Absolutely,
and getting it wrong and repairing it. First of all, you've got to identify it. A lot of moving parts in our business. How do we identify that we've upset them in any which way, shape, or form, and then repairing it?
It's such an awkward conversation, isn't it? I've had situations where obviously we gain and lose clients. We've got a really good churn rate of clients, which is nice. But when they leave, I try my best to ask, what's the reason? What's the real reason? You told me a fake reason. I feel like, what's the real reason? What's happened along the line? Because a lot of the time they'll say budget or something like that, and that may have been like a contributing factor, but there would have been other stuff going on there. Because I know you probably could have found the budget if you knew the results that you were getting was blah blah blah. And no one's comfortable telling you the truth in that. A lot of the time, unless they're really pissed off. Yeah. Or whatever. Which
well, they're the good ones to have actually, because you can. Then you know where you're at and you can repair it. It's the ones that are silent assassins, I guess, that go and then
they've slowly dwindled away. And you're like, we've let these guys down somehow, or there's it might not just be something we've done. It's like a miscommunication, a process that we need to put in place to make sure that they're giving us the right stuff. Perhaps it was their fault, but we need to make sure that they're sort of performing the way that we need them to be so that we can perform, whatever. Yeah, really, really tough conversation to have, but if you can have it, it means that you've got the data to go. Next time we need to make sure that that they're giving us the right stuff. We had a client who was a distributor, funnily enough. They ended up. We ended up cutting ties with those guys. We'd worked with them for a really long period of time, and what happened was they were relying on us for one particular piece of content that we were trying to organize, and we had this weird product that they wanted to market, and I thought I'd found two. It was two products actually, and I thought I'd found two potential shoot locations and companies that we could work with to promote this product and do some cool content on it, and both of those let me down. And in the meantime, what I should have said to them, that the client was, I'm struggling with this. Should we do something in the meantime?
Yeah.
Have you got any of your own ideas? Can we figure out something else? Have you got any of your own contacts that you could do with this? Because I was relying on these third parties, and then they were kind of letting me down slowly but surely over a period of time, and we let it slip. And then eventually the client was going, we've not received anything from you guys in absolutely ages. And when's this shoot going to happen and stuff? And you kind of think, Jesus, like, we didn't technically do anything wrong, but we just kind of like took off, like, is it the eye off the needle? That's not the right term.
Eye off the ball?
Eye off the ball, yeah. Maybe it was finger off the needle, I'm not sure. Anyway, we took our eye off the ball, and we've let them go 2 months without content, and we've still not delivered on the thing that we said we were going to deliver on.
Yep.
Perhaps what I should have done is said, I'm not going to try and deal with any third parties. You figure it out.
Yep.
And then and so yeah, the situations like that where you go, there's no kind of like, no one did anything particularly wrong. It was just something got slipped.
Transparency is the easiest way. We're always, people make mistakes. Mistakes happen. It's how you handle them, isn't it? And if we're going to be delivering late or we're doing something that's wrong, we're big on. We have an incredible customer service department headed up by someone incredible as well, Hayley, and they very much face into these things because the customer is key, and it's the right thing. We have a separate customer service department deliberately, is that they keep the customer very, very happy. It's the right thing to do, but through facing into problems, they happen. Occasionally we go to load something on the wagon and it's fallen off the back, and we only had one of them, so we've got to just tell the customer, I'm afraid it's damaged, but we'll get it there as soon as possible. And I think as long as you tell people, they can decide then, can't they? It's they're not telling or trying to hide stuff that's deadly. I think bringing it back to marketing as well, the other thing about business, and it's important, is making sure we're talking to people about what's relevant to them.
Yes.
That's something that I hear an awful lot about, is talking to a retailer about something that's very merchant driven is of no interest to them. I mean, that's the way we've improved our performance in the digital landscape, certainly, is by talking to them about meaningful products, meaningful promotions. Somebody that's got a bathroom retailer that's maybe, I don't know, doing 24 bathroom installs a year isn't interested in one product and an offer of buy 100 of these and you'll get, and they're like, well, that's a lifetime's worth. No, thank you. It's not relevant. And you think about, how you engage with marketing in your own day-to-day life. Is the most relevant content to you is the one that you engage with.
Yes.
If you get an email that's irrelevant to you, you just delete it straight away. Social post, if it's not relevant to you or aimed at you, you scroll straight past it, don't you? It's about, we are bombarded in our day-to-day lives, especially at work, with information and content. Cut through it, make sure it's relevant, make sure it means something to the individual that's receiving it, and you'll have a higher click-through rate. It's
100%.
Fairly self-explanatory, that one, it seems, but we get it wrong, still get it wrong, and we're learning all the time.
Marketing. Yeah, like, it's so important. If you feel like an email has come through to you and it feels personal, even though you know it's not, feel like it's ticking all the right boxes in terms of your problems and your goals or whatever, you're way more likely to take interest in that, aren't you? And I imagine that's quite difficult. How do you sort of do you have like sort of separate? I'm not very good with email marketing in terms of the fact that I did it once a couple of weeks ago and got blacklisted instantly. So that was the end of my email marketing career. And I was actually asking people to be on the podcast. I'd sent like a bulk email to a load of people to be like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Like I found all these people from LinkedIn. And anyway, so yeah, I'm very naive to email marketing.
We're very good at it. Royal We there, I've got an incredible team in the market department. So split there's 6 people in our department, but we've split it into, we've got brand, digital and web.
Cool.
Which is very deliberate. I keep them very separate, or work collectively. But I tend to come up with a harebrained idea, and then they filter it to make sure that it works, which is great, because I'd probably get blacklisted very quickly.
Yes.
It was my sort of idea of coming and go, right, just subject line, ignoring this email will cost you money. No, you can't use that, Will. That's just going to get put somewhere else. Right, okay, we'll filter it down and make it work.
Yeah.
And they do. And that's why our click-through rate just grows and grows and grows.
Amazing.
And a lot to do with what we're doing with making sure it's relevant to the content. And again, back to that portal bit, and the Tesco club card thing that was far before its time. I suppose everyone knows about the Tesco club card thing, but for the sort of clarity on it is they want to get to a stage, because the club card harness all your data is by email. If you haven't bought milk from Tesco's for a while, they'll market you about milk, because you're still buying it. Where are you getting it from? And it's just so data rich. And they've done it by rewarding people. I mean, everyone's jumped on the bandwagon now, but they were the first, I think, to really pioneer it.
It's very clever, isn't it? So when it comes to email marketing, do you have separate sort of categories of your audience, and
yes.
You've got specific messaging going out to
I'm
each
not going to go into too much detail about what they are, but yes, we break everything into behaviours, and we move about with it as well. So we cut it every time we do something. Basically, we look at who is the audience, who wants to receive that, who is it relevant to, and then we put it in and fire it out. And
clever shit. This is like next level stuff, Keelan, compared to what we do, and it's something that I've always been in awe of. Is this kind of like, you've got, I don't know, 500,000 emails, people on your contact list, and these are split into different segments, and you can have funnels for each of those segments that go into different areas. And I'm like, who the hell's looking after all this stuff? We're trying to create a film with 3 deliverables and freaking out.
But then the other part of that is surround yourself with clever people.
Yes.
I'm very lucky to have that. So that's a blessing, because I couldn't do it. And I think also the bigger bit is what I've just admitted there. If you can't do something, don't just bury your head in the sand with it. Lean into it and find the talent. Either, go and outsource it, bring it in-house, do whatever you have to do to get that knowledge and creativity. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done. Absolutely. I think... and don't be afraid to say it. It's not a weakness. That's, that I'm probably guilty of it early on in my career, but now, I'm not afraid of saying what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. And just put your hands up and say, it's a great idea. I think it should be done. I'm not the person that's going to drive that. Yes. Let's bring someone in. It's I thought about this concept the other day. Someone asked me, I was at a show. So we were originally a full service creative agency. When Dissident started, we were a full service creative agency. So not necessarily a marketing agency, although there was a marketing element to it. So we would come up with like a marketing strategy for particular businesses and things like that. But it's very much creative driven. So website, branding, socials, content, design, stuff like that. And then we very quickly realized we didn't enjoy most of those things. There was a lot of that I was just like, it sounded like a great idea. And technically, it was one of those things that we could have enjoyed if we'd focused on it. Yep. But it was the lack of focus. And we kind of had like a bit of a chat internally. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And before, we'd ran as a social media marketing agency and a content agency, which we've now called a social first creative agency. That's kind of the term that we use to kind of bring production and social media marketing together. And we'd run the business like that prior to that, and we'd really enjoyed it. I mean, we sort of went, why do we not enjoy this anymore? And also why we're making less money and working harder. So we kind of came to this conclusion, and we were doing stuff that sounded like a good idea, but actually we didn't enjoy it. And it made the work harder.
and they've made the focus less direct, and the output wasn't as good in general because we were spreading ourselves too thin. And it turns out the fact that we just didn't enjoy, deep down, we didn't enjoy most of this stuff. But I was at Screwfix Live the other day and speaking to one of the guys on the stands, and he said, how come you don't do like PPC and like an SEO and stuff? That's something that we could use. Like, what, you know, you seem like a great agency. Why would you not want to do that? I'm like, it doesn't sound like much fun. And I went a bit further with this, and I thought, well, we've technically kind of all got our dream job here. You don't kind of join a creative agency because it's your sort of last resort. So most of us, although, you know, and not every day is perfect, pretty much everyone of us is in the career that they chose to be in.
Yeah.
Or certainly for me, I've got my dream job. This is as far as I go on the ladder of like career. And why would you spoil that by doing something that you don't like and don't want to do? Obviously, you can hire that kind of stuff in, but also at the same time, from a creative agency, like I don't really.
But that's again about staying in your lane, isn't it?
Yes.
And knowing what you're good at, and you know, there are natural adjacencies to what you say in there. You know, bring a PPC in, but that's specialist. That's like very data driven. Not particularly creative at all, actually. The opposite, SEO, maybe a little bit more creative, but it's all about copy. Yeah. So that's then linked. You know, you can see an adjacency for a PR agency deciding they want to go and write SEO content. Fine, but accept that, but it doesn't naturally marry up. And I think that's, you know, back to the first question, I suppose, as to why the construction industry is possibly a little bit behind in the marketing bit, is the guilt of thinking, oh, marketing, oh, well, whoever's doing our SEO must be able to do our PPC. Yes. And, oh, do you think they could buy telly adverts? No. That's a different skill set again. You know, could they do some radio creative?
Yeah.
No, because, you know, you're tight for time there. You've got 30 seconds. You've got to get a key message in. It's very different to doing a podcast like this where it can be as long as it wants to be.
Yeah.
So they're all specialisms, and I get the adjacency, but sometimes I think people are guilty of thinking with marketing that there's adjacencies, where there aren't any, and that's, you know, back to the reason why I've split my department into brand, web, and digital, because they're three very different channels. So Absolutely. It's three very different skill sets, and yes, there's some crossover between them, but my head of brand doesn't know how to fix the website if there's a problem. Vice versa, I wouldn't swap the roles around the other way either. So that's about being a specialist in that field. In a way,
it's almost so. We're quite lucky in the fact that we can be specialists, and it kind of brings me on to that's a really nice sort of segue into a point that I put across quite a lot. Is I think a lot of big brands who haven't got the time to think, or just brands in general, MDs, whatever. They like you said, they assume a marketing agency can do everything and do everything well.
Yeah,
a full service agency, and some of them can. Some of them got some great guys in there. But I, where possible, would push for brands to speak to specialist agencies.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more to deal with, so it can be a little bit more of a time suck there. In terms of you've got to deal with 5 or 4 different agencies as opposed to one that's doing everything. So you've got these 4 or 5 different specialist agencies that their sole focus is making sure that they're successful in that one particular field. And they can talk to each other quite nicely.
Yeah.
Agencies typically do, especially if they're specialists. But you might need to manage those a little bit more, but you get a better result, and it may well be cheaper. I don't know. As opposed to, you know, using a full service creative agency. Not to say that that's not a viable option, but it's not always the best option to just go with one agency that does everything, because a lot of the time, brands are guilty of making a marketer do too much stuff, and agencies.
I think the other fact is not so much in this current role, but certainly in the past, I've broke it up. I've had it in one place and then broke it up. It also holds everyone to account.
Yes.
So, you know, you can easily, most agencies now will cross-function with other businesses to collaborative work, I guess. It holds everyone to account, really. You know, if you've got one single source of everything at one place, you've just got to take their word for it. You've got no sort of no benchmark, I guess, to soundboard off anybody else, because you've just got to take their word for it, or call them out on it, and then that's a difficult thing as well.
Yeah, one of the things that that really it's kind of related to this to some extent is the assumption that if someone is young, then and they know how to use TikTok, that all of a sudden makes them a marketer. And I see construction brands doing this far too often because the best metaphor I can do this is the kind of dinosaur old MD doesn't understand social media, but sees a pretty young girl who's got a load of followers on TikTok, and says, right now you can run our social media because you know how to work the platform in your own, and that might be that might actually work out okay. But that doesn't make them a marketer, and it doesn't make them qualified to communicate your brand to the audience, to the world. And I see this happen so much. And obviously I run a social media agency, so I do understand this. But I think, unless that young person who knows how to use a particular social platform, unless they've got a manager who's also a very talented marketer and communicator, you're in for a world of hurt there. And you might not even realize it, that you're just, ruining the brand by doing silly dances on TikTok or something like that. Or,
and again, the big thing of the invitation's got to meet the party is it's not relevant, is it? If you're selling, let's keep it relatable to bathrooms. If you're selling a bathroom product, it would not make great sense to go out and get a young influencer from TikTok to go and start doing dances and all the other stuff, and just go, I don't get it, I'm confused.
It's so awkward.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's relatable. And it is screams are trying too hard, I think, in some respects, but then also not relatable. That's not what you'd relate to a bathroom product. TikTok's great for plugging a lot of things, but I don't think it's quite there for us yet. The construction industry, or that's not right. We just haven't hit the nail on the head with it, I don't think.
I've got my thoughts on TikTok. We use TikTok with our brands, but we use it to communicate the same thing that was things that we're communicating on other channels that are still relevant to that audience. I think one of the things that you see a lot of people saying on TikTok, it needs to be raw, it needs to be like it's shot on a phone, it needs to be applicable to the platform because that's what people are used to seeing. Totally. If you can do that and do it well, go for it. But if you only have the budget to create, let's say you've created really high quality premium content that works on other platforms, it is totally okay to put on there as well.
That's that earlier conversation of ROI. What and who are you doing it for? Because if you're just doing it to tick a box to say, oh, brilliant, we've got a TikTok channel, then fine if that's what you want from it. If you're actually trying to monetize it, then you need to think long and hard about whether it's the right audience, whether it's the right market for you, and what you're trying to get out of it. Set your goal before you delve into that channel, I guess.
Right, there is that classic kind of thing of like, we need to be on social media, So somebody high up said we need to be on social media.
Yeah, we're missing it.
And someone else is going, okay, I'll have a go, or whatever. And it's thankfully, as we progress and as people retire, as newer blood kind of comes into the businesses and stuff like that, and cleverer marketers come into the construction industry as a whole, we're going to hopefully see less and less of that kind of like, we're here because we feel like we need to be, as opposed to, like you say, have a goal.
Or switch some of the, they're all now, much as that, even LinkedIn really is down to the point that people are seemingly, professional people are sharing what I'd call like Facebook posts almost.
Yes.
They're sort of...
Oh yeah, we've ranted about this a lot.
Checking in places, they're posting about their personal lives on LinkedIn, which is fine, great,
they
actually.
They did a charity 5K or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great.
But it's a channel and it works, and you can put stuff... Now, if you want to be on TikTok, because you think that's relevant, maybe just take the good of that, reflect it, but put it on the right channel that's right to your audience as well.
100%.
So if you're B2B, I don't think TikTok's the one.
No.
I'm not sure that's going to get you the cut through, but no, I could be wrong. There's, like I said to begin with, not the cleverest of that one. So
B2B is a weird one because it's we're used to working with brands that are marketing to both.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, I would say if you're going to if there's a need to be on let's say your Bosch, let's say, so your Bosch tools. 100% you need to be on Instagram because you are marketing your products. People need to be able to engage with your product and your brand on social media. It's a great communication tool to the end user. You can obviously still be on Instagram and do similar stuff, but you're probably going to have a slightly different strategy because of that. All that's going to be about B2B. It's going to be about speaking to your distributors for the most part. So that's really good. And then, you've got TikTok and so it kind of makes sense for you to be kind of on there as well. But what you don't need to do as Bosch is employ somebody then to do a load of like what some influencer has said, this is the best way to get engagement on TikTok, even though it damages the brand because you're completely going against your brand values and the normal times of communication. Yeah. But B2B, it's kind of like a weird one. It's not one I've thought about a great deal, but I don't think you need to be. You don't even think you don't technically maybe need to be on Instagram. I mean, if you're creating content for LinkedIn, my thing has always been if you're gonna do you can create content on one platform, you might as well just auto post that to the rest of them because it's better to show up than not. As long as it's not. Again, damaging the brand, and I don't think it would be because if you've got content going out on LinkedIn, that it is okay if that goes out on Instagram because you've not got an end user audience. No. It kind of doesn't matter. The end user doesn't really care about you anyway at this point because you're all about the distributors and stuff like that. So I don't think it matters. Whereas if you were technically marketing to the end user, putting your LinkedIn posts on Instagram might be a bit weird, potentially.
They're a different channel altogether, aren't they? And that's I think you just have to remember that they're all different channels and they should all be different messages. And you can't reflect. We're very, just the fact that because it's open to everyone, and we were saying earlier about the email sort of being a little bit more unique in its mailing list. Yes. You then can't go out on socials with something that's. You can't say, oh, this is specific to this group of people, so I'll do that. But then we'll just post it on social so everyone can see it. Yeah. It's so we're trying to use social more for service messages and a bit more about the business and then brand getting values. Behind it as well, the brand values, meet the team, see behind the curtain type thing. It's
absolutely like day in the life of like one of our drivers or something like that. What our clients
I haven't done that yet, but that's a good idea. I'll take that one for free.
I've always wanted to do it. We nearly got the go ahead from one of our clients to do a day in the life of a BDM. I thought that might be quite interesting how they go and interact with their customers, what they do on a particular day and stuff like that. Some kind of,
it is interesting. That sort of, it's not marketing related, but business related, is that our onboarding process now, whenever we take somebody new on into the business and welcome them into the team, is quite a detailed first week. And part of that is they'll spend a bit of time in the warehouse, they'll go out with a driver.
Yes.
Because they have to. We want everybody to understand the business from cradle to grave, really. So, we'll get them to go and spend a bit of time with a supplier, go out with the sales team, see the customer for flesh. Because I couldn't believe it, but when I joined, spoke to almost all the marketing team, and nobody had been to a branch, nobody had been to any of our customers, nobody had been into a showroom. Right, well, let's solve that because you need to go and look at who we're selling to. They don't need to go to all of them, but they need to go and see what a bathroom showroom looks like, what a merchant looks like, because how are you supposed to market to people if you don't understand the customer base? That's incredibly important, almost more important than what the message is saying and how it looks really is. Is it relevant?
Yeah. I imagine it's relatively easy to in a big business like that to just be like, no one's thinking, right, let's all go and see a customer.
Yeah, and look, it's a fast moving business as well. So it's, there's sometimes a bit of, just get the bum on the seat and get working. But actually, we're less of that now and take the time of making sure they understand, make sure they're happy as well, make sure they're comfortable with it. Again, back to the customer service team, We want to make all of them bathroom specialists. So spend a lot of time with our brands. You know, we get them doing training, going to the site, seeing the factory, all those things that possibly sound boring, but actually, you know, you're selling these products day in, day out. You should go and understand how it all works.
It's good to have a bit the broad picture.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then you're relatable to the customer when they ring up, because that's our service. Is we should be bathroom specialists, and we are now. So when they want to speak, they go, well, I don't know what a shower tray looks like. You know, I couldn't tell you what they're made of. Right, brilliant. That's really helpful. Thanks, Ideal Bathrooms.
Yeah.
But now our service, our whole business knows. You know, they know what we sell.
It isn't. It's customer service is almost like a sort of a branch of marketing in that respect, isn't it, for you guys?
Yeah.
Like it's really important that the core messaging and stuff is. I guess there's more of a brand thing than marketing, but and like culture, but super important nonetheless. Like, you know, you can have all all this amazing marketing, and if that isn't kind of like if your customer service or general team isn't on board with the messaging and the goals and all that kind of thing, then there's that disconnect.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking to all our teams really about how important they are in that, you know, going back to that chain example, how important they are. Because what we do is not unique. There's no point in me sitting here and saying that it is, because it isn't. We distribute brands. So they have an option of turning left or right. You know, they could buy from somebody else. We want them to buy from us because it's super easy. We do what we say we're going to do, and deliver it on time and in full. That's what we do. So everybody is very, very important, and we spend a lot of time nailing home that message, really.
That's really cool. We're not.
I don't know if it is cool or just actually pretty basic.
No, I think
it's sometimes I think you forget the basics. I think it's the first thing to go. Actually,
it's like when you go and do a workshop or you go to like a marketing seminar, and it's basically people reminding you of the stuff that you should have been doing. And you knew that you needed to do that. You just needed reminding of it, you know? A lot of the time when you go to it, you know, like some of the best things that you can do for your business is stuff that you already knew you should be doing. You just needed someone to tell you that's still a really important thing to do. You know?
Yeah, and that's why, you know, listening to, I'm not sure this podcast might be the right example as the one I'm starring in, but but others you might be able to find some useful information. But learning those and you think, oh God, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
But it's just you haven't had the headspace or you haven't had the time to do it. I mean, it's my biggest frustration when someone has I love it. I love people having great ideas, but I go, oh, damn.
Yes.
I should have thought about that. But we're not in that space. I'm big at leave your ego at the door, basically. You know, anyone in our business is welcome to have a great idea. And if they've got it, then let's parade them around the car park because it's phenomenal. You know, nobody has the monopoly on great ideas.
No. Do you know what really, really frustrates me is when our clients have better ideas than us. And that's, you know, I sort of, it's like, oh, you pay us to do this. And every idea that, you know, that we've got this one particular
But then
client.
again, they might not have the skill set to execute it.
No,
That's the other thing, isn't it? You know, we can all have great ideas, but actually, does it work in practice? Does it work in principle? You know, can you actually do it?
Yeah.
No.
A lot of the time, you know, we have to, like, we all do like, sort of, what they call killing when you go and do idea development and stuff like that. It's a specific term and it's a dead easy word. What is it? It's Monday morning, isn't it? Brainstorming.
Yep.
There we go. We're brainstorming, you know, sort of days where, you know, we're working with a particular client. Let's say we've got a campaign, so we've got to deliver X amount, like tons of deliverables on a particular product. Here's the core messaging. Here's who it's for. We have, like, you know, some constraints there. Go. And we go from wild to less wild ideas. But one person's wild is different to another. And, you know, sometimes the client goes, well, what about this? And I go, I didn't even know if we were allowed to do that. But yes, let's do that. It's a brilliant idea. Of course, they know their products incredibly well, so they can come up with these kinds of concepts. But and it's why I love collaborating with brands. You know, it's rather than, and why I love working with marketing managers. And marketing managers are typically our clients as opposed to like MDs, because MDs just haven't got the time for us. But we can speak the same language. We can collaborate a bit easier. It's a lot of fun. So since you've been working with Ideal Bathrooms, so did you say
just over a year?
Just over a year. Did you change anything when you went in there? What's been like the year like? Because I imagine it's tempting for every marketer, every creative to go into a company and go, everything needs to change. I can do it better, but actually a lot of the time it's not a good idea.
Yeah, the problem is when you change everything all at once, it's hard to see what worked and what didn't work. Yes, lots of change, but I like to think not change for changing sake.
Yes.
We've not changed anything at the fundamentals of what the business is, just a bit of refinement and then a refocus on what we are as a business, really. I think, that back to basics thing has been systemic actually in our business over the last year, is actually just strip it back and keep it really, really simple. Let's not go off and create something really complicated that nobody needs. Let's just keep it really, really simple and execute it well.
Yes.
Make sure it resonates and make sure it gets a high return.
Was there anything in particular that when you came in and you analysed all the marketing activities of the business previously, was there anything that stuck out to you as being like, we need to stop this or change this or that this needs to be
not particularly. The one thing that was a standout for me was our digital piece. We were clearly ahead of the game, but my constant worry of that is, you're only ahead of the game for a snapshot in time. So we've got a big digital agenda of where we just want to keep growing on what we're doing. Really, it has to be simple in a world where you'll buy Amazon every day.
Yes.
That's what people are expecting now, and that's what we have to have as a service offering. So we've launched quite a lot in the business. Again, not necessarily marketing, but it all helps and strengthens what we're doing. We've just launched electronic proof of deliveries. So now tracked orders, sign on glass when you get there. But then that's great in its sort of just in itself. But we've got then all the proof of deliveries onto the portal. So again, making people get into that, but keeping it in one place. It's ease of business. That's sometimes it's not marketing. It's actually just the ease of how you do business with us, and keeping it really, really simple. I keep going back to that point, but make it hard and people will turn off.
Absolutely.
If it feels like you've got to jump through too many hoops, then they'll just not do it. They'll just turn off and go somewhere else. So
I think we might have said this off air, but I've always had this concept of it's not a new concept at all, of like make it as easy as possible for people to spend as much money as possible, because that's what they want. That's what they're there for. You're not tricking them into it.
No.
It's just if you put up some barriers, they will go, oh, I can't be asked. Yeah. And any time that I have to go through a more than, if there's a situation where I'm going through the checkout and something's freaking out, I just go, forget it.
Yeah.
Can't be bothered. Like fix those problems. But I think to your point about like it's not marketing.
And I think that point is consumers in end consumer, is a very different sort of, they will just go, oh, forget it, I'll come back later or not at all or never. And, you've got to then keep them in the funnel and keep them warm, keep communicating back with them. For us in the business to business space is if we make it difficult once, they just go, oh, I'm going to have to find another option for this.
Yeah.
People will persevere.
Yeah.
But only so much. And I think people's tolerance for that is getting less and less. And that's because online has just become so much, well, not even online, everything now, everything's so much easier than it was before.
Yeah.
You even think about checking in for a flight at an airport now. You don't speak to someone, do you? You've done it all before.
Yeah.
You go to an electronic bag drop, it prints the label for you, sticks it on and done. Now, the thought of going to an airport and having to queue for ages and get a printed boarding pass, then check your bag and drop it somewhere else, would be alien.
Yes.
Nobody would want to do that. But that was just an evolution. But we're all now so time conscious, aren't we? And if it's overly complicated, we just switch off and go, oh, forget it, I'm not going to bother. I don't need it. Or somebody else can do it, or I'll do it tomorrow. They put it off. And then we risk not getting the sale.
Yeah, and
not just that sale, the continuous sale.
Exactly. Your business relies on repeat business.
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
respect. When you get a client, you want to keep that client for 10 years, 5 years, 20 years,
Not forever.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if they're injecting tens or hundreds of thousands into the business every single month or whatever, you lose that client. It's going to be difficult to get them back.
I think it's about respecting them as well and listening to them and making sure that when they say something's wrong or we fix it, that's that's my ethos, and our business is an ethos actually across the board, is we're there to exist for our suppliers and our customers, be our suppliers. Customers should always come first, and they do. But if they say something, we take it away, we digest it, we listen to it, and we try and implement it, because we're there. We exist for our customers, basically. So yeah, they're incredibly important to us.
What do you think people say about you may well have the data to this, or you can speculate. What do you think people say about ideal bathrooms when you guys aren't in the room?
We're ideal, yeah. I don't have the data. We certainly, our reputation is good. I'm not saying it always has been. We're 44 years old. We've had ebbs and flows of our reputation, but currently incredibly good. And that's really because we do what we're saying we're going to do. We don't go out there and make big statements and then not deliver on them. If we're gonna say we're gonna do it, then we'll do it. Yeah. And that's really resonated with our supplier base and our customer base. So as much as I say I don't know, I do actually. We've just had went out and got some data, because we do twice a year actually now. We get everyone in the business round and we do a sort of presentation of where we've been, what we're doing and where we're going. Again, back to that thing of 190 colleagues, incredibly important to us. They all make the business. We want them to know and feel safe and understand where we're going as a business.
They've got to be invested and on board, aren't they?
And as part of that, it's like I said, it's very easy for us to stand up there and say, "Oh, it's great," but that's just us saying it. Let's go out. So we got supplier, customer, and sort of relevant feedback, and it was overwhelming, to be fair, how pleased our customer base is with us. So yeah, and that's because we're one part of their business, probably a very small part of it, and let's just make it simple for them.
Make it easy.
The last thing I want us to be is mentioned every day in those places, because that probably means we're doing something wrong. Yeah. If we're getting a lot of airtime in our customers' day to day, it's probably because we're getting it wrong.
Yeah. I think one of the takeaways so far from this episode has been get your marketing message correct for the target audience. Yep. And make sure you deliver on that message. Yep. And that's it's so simple, but that's massive, isn't it?
So many people get it wrong though. That adage, the invitation has to meet the party, is so many people get it wrong. I've been take your example of the gym. You look online and it's like looks really sexy, it looks high end, and then you get there and it's like it's shower's broken, only half the machines are working. Yeah. Clearly I don't go to the gym, maybe burger gyms, but not the other one. But you've just let them down, haven't you? You've gone into something and thought, oh, this isn't what I expected. So you're likely just to turn off straight away. Whereas actually, if your invitation meets the party, it all makes sense and people will engage with you and convert.
Even if that invitation was actually like subpar. So like if you're going down the route of like, okay, our gym's a bit of a hole. Let's market it as a bit of a hole, because there's a market for that. People are looking for a gym where they just want to go in, grungy gym. We used to call meathead gyms.
I think they're quite cool now. They're sort of like up and coming, and just embrace it. If that's what it is, that's what it is.
Half the machines don't work, but you just have to make it work.
Yeah. Don't try and be anything else. Yeah. Just be what you are.
Because then, if you've marketed like the high end gym goer, me specifically, you know what I mean? I'll get my nails done, and you know what I mean? I get like whatever, get some nice moisturizers in the bathrooms.
10-minute waits, an hour sauna spa.
Yeah, exactly. Get a little coffee afterwards. If you're marketing to them and then you have that gym, that's a disconnect there, and vice versa. There's a branding issue there, isn't there? If you sort of cross-pollinate between those two, it's important to get your audience right in that respect. We've gone massively off tangent.
I think the other part though of that is the other takeaway is don't be afraid of, just because you think you've had the best idea. Yeah. If it hasn't worked, cut it dead straight away and go and move on to something else. I think so many people get married to something and think, oh, we've invested in it, we've done loads of brand collateral, or we've printed a brochure, or if it's not working, don't keep trying to push it, because it's like pushing a rock uphill. Basically, it's just know when to just go, that doesn't work. Let's take some learnings from it and not do it again, but let's move on to something else.
Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that marketing is just testing most of the time. You need, as much as you can have a bit of data in your head and on paper to go, right, we think this is going to work.
Yeah.
It's only a prediction.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. And you can go, we missed this key factor of no one cares or whatever.
No,
you know
you
what I
can
mean?
get very, very hung up on that. And, it's better to have tried and failed than to have tried at all. It's,
100%.
Just don't try it, fail it, and keep trying the same thing and expect a different result, because it's not going to happen.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into B2B, because it's, it sounds weird, but I'm quite excited about that.
Okay.
Because we're so used to, again, we're a lot of the time we're marketing to the end consumer. A lot of the time, sort of juggling both. So B2B on its own is quite exciting. What kind of stuff are you putting out there to the world? And we touched on it briefly about so content around values, content around the people, and stuff like that. Do you have a specific strategy, for that kind of thing? And also, how do you touch on product when it comes to your content? There's always that kind of battle of selling the product, selling the brand, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different activity that we do, and you can sort of bucket it up into awareness piece, promotional led. We join up with our supplier partners, or sometimes just do our own promotions, and we push those out. So it's not that we're not promotion led, but we always have to remember that we're one step removed from the end client. So
yes,
it's difficult to go out there and influence the end user.
Yes.
So you're trying to make sure it's relevant for your customer base, which are businesses. So there's the promotion aspect of it, but then awareness, not just awareness of us as a business, but awareness of what brands we sell, awareness of our stock investment. That's what we've got to highlight all the time in our service messaging. Really, we've just done something which I think's very clever, but we have about 30,000 SKUs listed in our sort of portfolio. That's an awful lot to have. We've got a 108,000 square foot warehouse at Milton Keynes and a 56,000 square foot in Wakefield, but that's not big enough to get 30,000 SKUs in there. So we've put a blue van against everything that we guarantee you can have next day. We've got it in there, and it's sell with confidence. A lot about awareness of getting that message out there, because that's resonated really well with our customer base. Actually, again, back into that keeping it simple, making sure that we're transparent about what we've got on offer, just saying we're going to have it in stock, and then actually having it in stock, and then actually delivering it to you when you need it. Back to our promotional bit, but really back to the B2B and how we market is, I just keep coming back to it. It's making sure it's relevant to the audience, making sure that we've got the right message at the right time to the right person that's receiving it. And a lot of time and investment is spent in that area. Not only, are we talking to the right person? We've got an email address for ABC Trade Bathrooms. Fantastic. But who is it that we've got the email address for? Is it the man in accounts? Is it the woman that does the purchase order in? Is it the person on the shop floor? Who is it who's most relevant, and are we even hitting home to them? I suppose that's the other part of it, that the message is only as good as the data we're sending it to. Yeah. So data is incredibly important, making sure that we've got it as refined, as detailed as possible, basically.
Yeah.
A lot of investment in that. Difficult, by the way. People aren't willing always to give away their email address, and it's part of their identity, isn't it? These days, so we're looking at ways of how we get that and get to the right person, because it's also about speaking to the person that makes the buying decision.
Yes,
and that's not always the MD of the business. It's in fact very rarely is. I suppose
procurement is that a thing?
Yeah, but we deal with businesses of varying sizes. Yeah. We'll deal with merchants that have got millions of turnover and 40, 50 members of staff. So they might have a procurement department.
Yes,
but then also we'll deal with showrooms that will have much smaller turnover. It might be a husband and wife team, or a family, or who's the relevant person to talk to in that space. And of course, we have a sales team out on the road as well that make sure that they're getting into those customers on a regular basis, making sure they're updating to make sure from a marketing point of view we're talking to the right people. But it's almost as important as the message really is who it's actually getting. Well, it's more important who it's getting delivered to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it getting seen by the right person? Is it relevant?
Do you put much stock in a personal brand from a like from the, I guess, any of the people within the business? Do you have like a strategy around kind of personal brand on social media and like the sales team, for instance, having a presence on social media and connecting with customers and stuff like that?
No, not currently. It's something that we're definitely looking to explore. All our ASMs have got sort of LinkedIn and are quite prevalent on it. We are toying with the idea of our marketing department writing content for people within the business to post, because it's not just coming from Ideal Bathroom's main page isn't always the strongest way for it. So I post a little bit, nowhere near enough, not very good at it. So just sort of it's always one of those that is a forgotten should do that. But yeah, we're looking at putting it into our channel mix basically.
I don't have a load of experience in this, but I've often wondered, especially when it gets to B2B, when we've done when we work with brands who are split. So we have specific channels for specific audiences. So let's say we're working with Measurable, for instance, or whatever. We don't work with them for clarity's sake, but it's an easy one. They will sell to distribution, and then they'll market to those guys, but they'll also market to the end user because they've got a load of money. They can put it into the resources for the content. They can drive the key messaging to the end user. So let's say we're their agency and we're looking at their social media strategy and we're doing all the implementation. The end user stuff's easy. Like that's easy. You know what I mean? You can go. This is in the broadest sense, great looking visuals.
Yeah.
Here's my sort of strategy on a fag packet. Great looking visuals. Using influencers or any content creators with a bit of clout. Addressing issues that the customer might have, and looking at an ideal life of the person that has these kinds of tools. This idealized version of a tradesperson or a DIY person. They're having a great time doing whatever. That's my marketing strategy on a fag packet for the end user. And I'll probably get loads of shit for that. But the
people have spent millions trying to find that that strategy.
There'll be nuances to that. So B2B is a little bit more difficult because that's a little bit more transactional a lot of the time. I've found, and so when you're creating the marketing material for B2B, there's always been a lot of sort of question marks for us around about what our messaging should be, because a lot of the time we're thinking this should really be personal brand. This should be, because the guys who are making the sales, a lot of the time are just reposting stuff from head office, which doesn't get great engagement. But we're talking about LinkedIn specifically here. From a social platform. Email, obviously, very, very different. That's very direct marketing, which is actually great for a B2B setting. When it comes to social media, these guys are working on the fact that they've got great relationships with their clients. They've spoken to prospects and leads and stuff like that. They've probably got great personalities, and whereas the brand can often feel like a sort of just an entity. It's not a real thing a lot of the time. When it comes to like things like Measurable, for instance, it's a faceless.
Well, it comes people buy off people, don't they?
Exactly. And so I've often spoken to the brands that we work with and said, can we figure out some kind of like personal brand strategy where we're not necessarily writing the content for them, but these guys have sort of some rough guidelines of what they should be talking about, what issues they should be speaking on, and some sort of target of 2 to 3 posts per week, something like that, and have like some sort of strategy around that and see how that goes from a social media perspective. Writing personal brand content is very difficult to do. So it's got to be personal. You've got to write it like it's you writing it. A lot of the time, which so I've always found the idea of we've talked about this. Like I used to have someone who used to write my content for me, And it kind of works because it's one person writing another person's content. But when you got to write it for like 20 sales people, it's so difficult.
And that's what you do. I mean, going back to, what was it, the carpet retailer. It was a franchise business, actually, which was interesting, really interesting, actually, as a franchise business model. We developed a social media platform for Facebook, basically, as to every branch had a separate thing. So we set the guidelines for it. We did the sort of overarching post. So again, B2C this was. So we do the promotional posts on it, but then we try and actively encourage them to do local things. So take a picture of the front of the shop on a Saturday morning because they've got balloon arches up or something to say, I've got an event, see if we can get some local traction. Join local groups because there's a lot of those on Facebook, isn't there? We're in Stoke now and talk about things for sale in Stoke that they sort of exist. People go on there and try and find that information, but then again, making sure that they're spelling everything correctly, because that's not talking in colloquial sort of language, because that then can upset the brand. We tried that for about 6 months and ended up actually coming away from it because it just was really hard to police and hard to govern.
This is the thing, hard to police, isn't it?
The worst bit, I think it all came apart at one point where somebody had received a review on it, which wasn't a great one, and decided to post back to it on a Saturday evening, I think, after a couple of glasses of wine. So, that was a strategy of let's come away from that and keep it central again. But centrally, it just didn't get the traction because it's that people strategy, isn't it, of it being local and people are more engaged when it's relevant to them.
Yes.
It's a good idea. It's one that we've talked about, and I might accelerate, might steal, and I'll let you know
let me know
the results.
When I see people doing, especially like head of technical sales or something like that, let's say, of a particular brand. When I see those guys posting on social media, and these guys that they've got a great network. When I see them posting on LinkedIn about a particular product or a particular thing that they've done or a problem that they've solved and stuff, it gets incredible engagement and way more than the posts that we're being paid to produce on the brand's behalf. And I think, and so the strategy at Dissident is, although we post to Dissident's LinkedIn, it's essentially a dead channel. We used Dissident's LinkedIn profile as a gallery, a showroom of the content that we make, if people want to go and find that. But really, it's the individuals within the business that drive sales and drive engagement. And I've got to believe that's got to be the same for sales guys in big firms like this. But again, problems are, how do you police it? How do you get them on board? They're already busy. Sales guys have got quotas to meet and stuff like that. But I do believe if you can get it right, I reckon it'd be incredible. I'd love to build a strategy one day, but for a brand and almost have somehow create like a template that makes it really easy for them to just go, oh yeah, this happened this last week. What was the problem that you solved? And it was for this client. Tag them in it, something like that. I don't know. But it's a tough one.
We sell displays, and the bits about getting in there is about bringing awareness of that. I guess it's getting over the gap as well of sometimes about posting on LinkedIn. You sometimes write stuff, I do it and delete it to go, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
Who's like, is that meaningful? Am I just doing it for doing its sake? Does it sound a bit like a brag?
Yeah.
Just remove it and end up not posting.
Yes.
It's about getting over that hurdle as well, I suppose.
It's a tough one, isn't it? And it's got to be right for the right person. I'm quite good at self-promotion I'm not concerned about self-promotion. I don't think I'm good at it, but I've never been worried about it. And I think that's okay, kind of coming from me, because a lot of the time I can talk about the amazing work that my team's done.
Yep.
And I'm excited about that. And so, but if it was me making that stuff and I say, look how clever I am. I'm clever in the fact that I've hired a really talented team member that can produce this kind of stuff for our clients that gets some great results. Yeah. Amazing. It's nuanced, isn't it? So a personal brand.
Oh yeah,
it can be. I genuinely think it can be incredible as a sales.
And you have
tactic.
to make sure the tone of voice matches their character as well. I
Yes.
suppose that's the difficult part of it as well. Is we go, I've met that guy. He doesn't sound anything like what he's posted there. I don't think that's him.
No.
Then it's not doing what you want it to do either.
Yeah.
So
We'll figure this out and come back.
Interesting.
If you guys do implement that, will you come back and give me some results after 6 months or something like that? See if sales increase, or you do like a, I don't know, some kind of survey at the end with their customers and see if they like that kind of thing. But I think it could make a huge difference. It's just like you say, it's the how do you get them to do it and how do you police it? And there's probably no clear answer to that. Are we missing any particular points of? Is there anything you wanted to talk about, Will, and anything you've come across when it comes to marketing? Because I feel like we've gone massively off tangent to the point where I think we're way over time. But I feel like the stuff that we've come to has been the stuff that I would much prefer to talk about than my original concept for the script. But
I think I'm always conscious not to talk too much about digital because there's it's only a section of what we do as a business and what people should do as a business. I think certainly in the construction industry, it's still very much a people relationship industry. But my sort of advice, and look, it's not because I'm a digital expert, because I'm certainly not, but embrace digital. Don't be afraid of it. Don't see it as the enemy.
Yes.
I think a hell of a lot can come of it and simplify the way that you do business and can do business with your customer base. That's all I'd say is to embrace it. And back to my earlier point is, if you don't have the expertise, don't be afraid to just admit that and go out there and go to some networking events, go to exhibitions, research it online, tap into LinkedIn, find some experts on it, and don't go with the first one that you see. Spend a bit of time, do the due diligence on it, but embrace it because it's not going away.
No.
In fact, it's moving faster than we can keep up with it. I think that's my takeaway. But then don't forget your traditional lever. Don't forget your other base. Don't try and move your whole business to that.
Yeah.
Way of working that platform, except that people want to be almost omni-channel, I guess, and come in. I said it earlier, but if people do want to send us smoke signals or pigeon carrier mail and still continue to use fax, then it's for us to adapt our business to how customer wants to engage with us.
Yes.
Not drive them the other way, but certainly digital is the future.
Well, I hope that this podcast will be.
I'm not the first person to say digital is the future. I'm sure that
no.
That's my own saying.
It's got to the point where it's got to the thing where most there's a lot of verticals where digital isn't even really a term that's used anymore. It's just incorporated into marketing as a whole. Whereas I think for construction, it's still very relevant to call it digital because I still speak to businesses that are very successthey They've got one-page websites built, early 2000s. Still going. There's no need for them to have a website, or they hadn't found a need up until recently, and now they're going, crap. With all of this stuff is on the table, and we haven't got access to it at the moment. I think it sounds silly to us, but reinforcing the benefits of digital is massive because, like I said, I think construction as a whole, as an average, I'm not saying that all businesses are like this, is about 7 years out of date when it comes to tech, marketing tech and marketing strategies and things like that.
And I think some of that is down to the fear of having a website means that I'm not supporting the high street, or it's like, no, it does support it. It sort of, the two can exist in perfect harmony and actually support each other very, very well. You need to have a digital identity now. It's the first port of call. And these days I wouldn't go to a restaurant if I couldn't look at the reviews, if I couldn't check the menu. Yeah, I know what I'm having 3 days before I've gone, and I don't think I'm unique in that. Most people will go, oh, it hasn't got a website.
Yeah.
Don't know. Or it hasn't got a review platform. Oh,
Well,
I'm not going to go there.
And again, I don't want to dive too much into this, but the newer generations that are coming in who are less likely to pick up the phone and book a table in the first place. They want to go online, book online. I can't, and to the point where
there was a statistic I read somewhere about how many people just if they can't book a table online, they'll go somewhere else. Yeah.
I had it at the Miller and Carter the other day. We were on a shoot. We were at. It was Screwfix Live. So we were staying near Farnborough in a travel lodge, which I was a bit devastated about because I'm far too fancy for a travel lodge. But as we were driving in, all the boxes were ticked. Like as we just turned off the road, Starbucks drive-through tick for the first in the morning. I'm chuffed with that. I love a Starbucks drive-through. Miller and Carter right next to the place, and I was like, yes, here we go. I can deal with a travel lodge if I can have a Miller and Carter before we go to bed. Tried to call them up.
For the audience listening, there's nothing wrong with a travel lodge.
Is that right? I'm a Premier Inn guy minimum at the moment, but pleasantly surprised by the travel lodge. And Miller and Carter though couldn't call them. You had to book online. So to your point of
that's equally frustrating.
And it was fine, but if I hadn't have had great Wi-Fi or whatever, that might have been a struggle for me. And it was relatively easy.
But that's you have to cover all bases. And one thing we haven't touched on, actually, another thing that we've brought in fairly recently is WhatsApp for Business.
Yes,
which is incredibly exciting because we've not had that channel before. But again, a lot of our customer base just wants fast availability, fast pricing, fast response, and they can do that on the move. They can do it while they're sat behind the desk. They can do it while they're walking around the shop, and the feedback to that has been incredibly receptive, actually. But just as simple as opening up as many different channels as possible that our customer can engage, because if that's how they want to do it, then they're welcome to.
100%. Love that. So key takeaways from this. Remove barriers and market to the right people.
Yep.
The right audience. Change your marketing strategy and output to the right audience, and make sure you deliver on those marketing messages.
Yeah, do what you say you're going to do.
Exactly. Was there anything else that I should have asked you that I haven't? Do you think? Will?
No,
no.
I don't think so.
Amazing. In that case,
there was possibly another piece that we're going to touch on, which I think is topical, and it's something that we're very passionate about. Is the ethical agenda. So we're wanting to be as energy efficient as possible. I think all the supplier base now is waking up, I guess, to the need. We are going to run out of water. Electricity is not quite as it's a luxury, isn't it, now, that we're able to find new sources for. I think we're ahead of the game in that. We're really pushing an ESG agenda. All our vehicles, we haven't moved to electric because that's not what we think we're ready for as an industry. I don't think we could do what we're doing in electric. We wouldn't be able to deliver the service and the reliability. No. All our vehicles are Euro 6. They're all a minimum of 18 months old. And that's not just for vanity, that's because it's about doing the right thing, and it's about reliability and keeping our service ahead of it as well. But we've invested in matting and all the other things to reduce damages, because actually that all factors into our OTIF and our sustainability, because it's difficult to recycle all those products, and that's not an efficient way of doing it. I think a lot of people just think, it's about getting rid of cardboard or any of those other...
Your packaging or whatever.
Yeah, it's not. It's about making sure stuff's not damaged and it's delivered on time efficiently. We've invested in vehicle tracking and route planning software, so we're all the time looking to shave miles off the delivery route. Again, that's twofold. It's saving us fuel, but also it's doing its bit for the planet. I'm not saying that we're saving the world, but we're trying to do our bit. And it's on our radar all the time as something that is incredibly important to us, because it's not going away and it shouldn't go away. And we don't want to do it for ticking a box. We want to do it in the right way and support our customers and our supplier base. Again, because more and more, I think I read somewhere 1 in 5 customers now ask about sustainability and ask about the life cycle of their product and the water aspect of it, because our British sewer system isn't going to cope for long with the house building that we're doing. I have to look at how much water we're putting into that network, and good for the industry. The industry is ahead of it, but we all have to do our part.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was going to mention that it's not just about, like you say, a box ticking exercise and just being like shouting it for the sake of shouting it. People are genuinely looking for this now.
Yeah,
your customers are looking for it. I think a few years ago that wouldn't have necessarily been the case as much. I think it was a case of great, like that's a factor, but cost is still very much a big part.
I think if you do it right, it shouldn't cost the earth.
No. No, I'm sorry. What I meant by you're like
you look at it and say,
the customer's going,
I'm paying more for it to be.
You're more expensive than these people, but you are a lot more eco-friendly. I'm still going to go with the cheap guys. I think more and more now that's not the case, and I think it's going to be a case of you're right. I think a lot of it's being eco-friendly's got cheaper, which is good. It's got more accessible, but also it's got more desirable from a consumer point of view. Not only for your customers, but the end users potentially as well. So there can be communications between the brands, the distributors, and the retailers. There could be something going on there.
I think we just respect our part in the journey for that as well. If somebody is out there selling that as a strength, and then if we delivered it on a 15-year-old Transit coughing like dust out the back, it doesn't. Back to that invitation, not meeting the party, that doesn't resonate back through with the customer. We've got to do our part in the whole service offering that we have, and it's the right thing to do.
And businesses of your size, of Ideal Bathroom size, small changes can make massive differences, can't they? That's the beautiful thing about it, is you can you can start implementing this kind of stuff. This isn't an environmental show, but so we'll get off this subject at some point, but. You can put in small changes which make huge differences, not just to your bottom line, but also the environment. Great, win-win. And there's some things that putting up solar panels is going to cost you a lot of money in the initial run, but if you don't have to do that initially to make a difference, which is great. And the thing with the vans, I'd love an electric van, but we travel very typically 300 miles, 200 miles, and they haven't got there yet. If we were like Central London production company that only worked in Central London, 100%.
Yeah, and that's about don't make knee-jerk decisions just because it ticks a box.
Yes,
look at it, make sure it's the right fit for the business, the right fit for the customers, and actually it can be counterproductive if you do it the wrong way. But we're not writing electric vehicles are on the agenda. It's just as and when and where possible. If we're doing an inner route to London, if we can do it, then we will do it.
Superb. Anything on the agenda for the next 6 months, 12 months? Anything you're excited about within the business in terms of marketing?
Lots of things. Again, not to push on it, we have a digital agenda that we're wanting to push and accelerate quite quickly on. Again, all just in that B2B space to make our customers more engaged, easier for them to deal with us. As that space, we're also launching an own brand, which is exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah. We've had one for a long time, but it's not been touched for a while. So we're relaunching that. Watch this space. That's
very cool.
That's quite exciting. And yeah, that's the main two really, I would say, on our immediate agenda.
Amazing. Well,
the ones I'm going to talk about.
You're also allowed to talk about. Well, we could do that. Maybe we can get you on if we do anything with the personal brand stuff, and then perhaps we can get you in to talk about own brand in 12 months' time or something like that. And you can see we can learn some lessons from that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Really
thank you for having me.
Amazing. I'm desperate for a week.